Thank you very much. And we were talking about, would there be a threat of rain today for our Styrian Grand Prix? No such thing, and I'm sure pretty much all of the 20 drivers will be trying to keep it off the grass. Jolyon Palmer, Jack Nicholls are here by my side to have a look at what's going to happen in this race. It's round 8 of the Formula One World Championship. We're at the Red Bull Ring, and Jack, it's just a fab track. I love coming here.
It's a really picturesque circuit, isn't it? It's plastered up the side of a mountain in the Styrian Hills, a couple of hours, probably 2.5 hours south of Vienna, just west of Graz, and it's a spectacular location for a Grand Prix circuit. They've been motor races here for a long time. Originally on the old Zeltweg airfield, then they built the Österreichring up the side of this mountain. That then was used until the 1980s, was deemed to be a little bit too fast and dangerous, and then they kind of rebuilt it a little bit and reshaped it, made it more modern in 1997, and then Formula One's been coming here since 2014, I think. So yeah. It's been it's a really spectacular circuit and has provided some good races over the years, and in a season of good races, we're hoping for another one.
We certainly are. Max Verstappen even described his pole position yesterday as simply lovely. He'll start with Lewis Hamilton just to his side. Then it'll be Norris in the McLaren and Perez, Bottas, Gasly, Leclerc, Alonso, Stroll, and George Russell starts inside the top 10 for the first time in his Williams career, and he gets a free choice of tyres, so I think a lot of people have their eyes set on him to see how well the Brits can do. Lewis Hamilton trails Max Verstappen by 12 points in the standings, and when it comes to constructors, which is where the big points are paid out, the big prizes are given, well, it's Red Bull leading the way, and we don't say that very often. They have a 37-point lead. Jolyon Palmer, this could be the race where we see the two clashes, couldn't it? Verstappen, Hamilton?
It could be, but then again, any of them could be at the moment, because they keep starting next to each other and they keep basically having race-long battles. So it is the sort of circuit where we have seen contact before. There's overtaking opportunities, big braking zones. Hamilton run into Albon last year, the other Red Bull. Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton had a tussle and a bit of contact on the final lap in 2016 as well. It's got the ingredients are there for a real cracker today.
Oh, they certainly are. It's a 245-metre dash to turn 1. Jolyon, this is a funny technical track, isn't it? It's quite unusual, I think. 71 laps. It's a lot of rotations around 4.3 kilometres. Where are the key chances for people to overtake to get positions?
First half of the lap. 3 big braking zones. The first corners are actually the fastest of the 3, and it's not so much an overtaking place anymore, but it leads onto a long straight and then an uphill braking zone at the second corner, which is actually turn 3, because for some reason Formula One call a flat-out left-hand kinker corner, which is very confusing. But after that there's turn 4, a downhill right, and basically turn 3 and 4, 2 big braking zones, right-handers. One goes up the hill, the next one goes down the hill, and they're both a little bit perilous to try moves as well. We've seen a lot of contact in the past. One of those Rosberg-Hamilton incidents was 2016 at 3. The Hamilton-Albon incident last year was at turn 4. If you don't make it through there, it's very difficult to do much until the next lap. But the beauty of this circuit is the next lap comes up in about 30 seconds. It's the shortest lap on the calendar in terms of lap time, just over a minute long. 7 real corners. The second half of it is beautifully flowing and some faster corners. And it pings you back over the start-finish line and back into another DRS zone and more chances to overtake.
This is the second of 3 races, all back-to-back. We had France last weekend. Verstappen won that from pole. Next weekend, we're here at the Red Bull Ring again. But Jolyon and Jack, it's time for the business to begin. It's time for all of the preparations and practices to come into play and see exactly who will come out of this Grand Prix with the top amount of points. 25 points on offer, 1 for the fastest lap as well. So another swing in the championship could be about to happen. Let's cross over as the cars get on their way to Jolyon Palmer and Jack Nicholls.
Yeah, really looking forward to this. There's so many battles to keep an eye out on. Not only the main battle for the victory with Verstappen on pole position and Hamilton alongside him, but also in the Constructors' Championship that Jenny alluded to earlier, Sergio Perez in the second Red Bull starts 4th on the grid, Valtteri Bottas in the second Mercedes starts 5th on the grid, so those two are going to be having their own private fight as well. 71 laps coming up of this Spielberg circuit. The tyre blankets are just being removed from the cars, they're being lowered from their jacks down onto the light grey asphalt that is going to see them charge up towards the first corner. We'll have full commentary here of the Styrian Grand Prix on BBC Radio 5 Live. The grid is now cleared. It's just the cars that are left on the circuit, with 20 drivers sitting at the wheel about to begin the Grand Prix. And it's Max Verstappen on pole position again. He leads the championship by 12 points. Will he be doing so come the end of the Grand Prix in an hour and a half's time? It's 2 o'clock here on BBC Radio 5 Live. This is the Styrian Grand Prix. The cars are making their way around on the formation lap. It's Verstappen on pole, Hamilton alongside him on the front row. Lando Norris starts a brilliant 3rd for McLaren, with Sergio Perez 4th in the Red Bull. 5th is Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes. The AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly starts 6th on the grid. Charles Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll and George Russell complete the top 10. Yuki Tsunoda's in 11th place after a grid drop for blocking Valtteri Bottas. Carlos Sainz is 12th in the Ferrari. Daniel Ricciardo a disappointing 13th in the other McLaren, while his teammate starts 3rd. Sebastian Vettel is 14th. Antonio Giovinazzi's Alfa Romeo is 15th. Nicholas Latifi, Esteban Ocon, Kimi Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin are the 20 drivers. Hashtag BBC F1 on social media. F1 at bbc.co.uk are the 2 ways to get in touch over the course of the afternoon. And it's a short uphill dash towards turn 1, but get good traction and you've got a real opportunity of taking the lead into that first corner, Jolyon. Hamilton will have the inside. If he can just get half a car alongside Verstappen, he's got every chance. He's got to at least try and put Verstappen under pressure. And remember, last week, Verstappen cracked at the first corner, had the lead in, but had a massive oversteer, ran wide, and Hamilton pounced initially. So we've had some changes of position at the front, and obviously Hamilton from the inside has got to try and hope that that can be the case again today. They both start on the medium tyre, as does Valtteri Bottas, and everyone who had a free choice outside of the top 10. So that does look like the preferred start tyre. Yeah, Max Verstappen and Hamilton on the front row on the mediums, Norris and Perez on the second row on the soft tyres, Bottas 5th on the mediums, and then, as you say, everybody else is on the soft tyres that has to start on the soft tyres, but then 12th downwards is all mediums or hard for Kimi Raikkonen. So strategy will play a part as the cars now pull up on the starting grid. Jenny?
Yes, it's worth bearing in mind pit loss here is 21 seconds. They'll all be hoping to do just one pit stop, and we're expecting the window to open around lap 22 if all goes well, and that for the people starting on a soft tyre.
So the cars now pulling into their grid positions. Toto Wolff, the team principal of Mercedes, sitting, leaning back in his chair, arms folded. Christian Horner always stands up in the middle of the garage watching the big screen. He's the team principal of the Red Bull squad. And the sound you can hear there is Lando Norris's Mercedes engine in the back of the McLaren, just ticking over as he waits for the lights to come. Nikita Mazepin, the Russian driver for the Haas team, is just lining up on the grid now. Verstappen leads the championship by 12 points. He's starting the Styrian Grand Prix in Austria on pole position ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton looking for an 8th world title. He needs to start clawing back some points if he's going to do it. All 5 lights are on. And now we're racing in Austria. It's a decent start from Hamilton. He's going to get pulling alongside, but Verstappen comes over and closes the door. Norris has got away fairly well too. Fernando Alonso chucks it up the inside at turn 1 and almost causes a collision, but everybody takes evasive action. Still the same order up at the front of the field, but now it's the long run up towards turn 3. Is Hamilton going to be close enough for a move? He's not. He's quite a way behind, and in fact Sergio Perez goes to the outside of Lando Norris at turn 3, and Perez has got through. Really good stuff from him, and Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo has been tagged into a spin at the back, but Verstappen leads, Hamilton second, Perez is now third, although he's going side by side with Norris, who tries to get the place back and does so. Brilliant move from Lando Norris to retake third position, and Hamilton is still trailing Verstappen, who leads the Grand Prix.
Good start from Verstappen, did what he needed to do, and it was Hamilton who came under more pressure, but because Norris and Perez were trading blows just behind him, I think he got away without having to defend too hard. Perez initially with a great move around the outside of Norris at turn 3, but then Lando tucked into the slipstream and did exactly the same move back on Perez at turn 4, so he's back up into third. The top 5 positions are as they were.
Damage for Charles Leclerc. It's the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. The front wing, the front right part of the front wing looked like he'd picked up damage on that opening lap, so the Ferrari driver's going to have to pit and come out right at the back of the field. Daniel Ricciardo is under pressure from Yuki Tsunoda. The Japanese racer has dropped behind Ricciardo at the start. He's actually made a great start. Started 13th, has got up into 9th place, albeit taking 1 position from the pitting Leclerc. And George Russell in the Williams has got up into 8th position, so he's gained a place off the line as well.
Good stuff from George Russell. He's one to keep an eye out for the Brits there. Starting in 10th, up to 8th now. Leclerc is obviously one of those drivers that's dropped back, having picked up damage and come through the pits. And Pierre Gasly is plumb last as well, so contact for Gasly somewhere out there. And that was from 6th on the grid for him.
Yeah, so I wonder if Gasly and Leclerc got together because they were starting near enough each other. Oh, and there is Gasly coming into the pits with an absolutely wrecked rear left tyre. It's absolutely hanging off the car, basically. We're just getting a replay of it. Leclerc came through the right-hander. No, they didn't come to blows there, so we'll try and work out where it all went wrong for Pierre Gasly. Oh, he was quite near the back already, actually. Latifi's got a puncture as well.
Yeah, Gasly dropped back a long way through the first corner, and then he tagged with another driver. I think it might have been Latifi at turn 3, but he was already way out of position. Pierre Gasly from 6th on the grid had plummeted down the order, and now he's effectively out of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, the rear left is absolutely wrecked. It looks like Gilles Villeneuve at Zandvoort in 1979, if that's not too niche a reference for some of our younger listeners. Lap 3 of 71, Max Verstappen leading the way, 1.4 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton.
Someone hit my front right tyre. Something heavy came off his car.
Okay, copy. We're monitoring pressures. Looks okay at the moment.
Good big hit.
So Hamilton's saying something came off Verstappen's car and hit his front right tyre.
Well, who's that bad news for? Is it bad news for Verstappen, who's lost something off his car, or bad news for Hamilton, who's run over it? They're the top 2, and they're both still going okay. Verstappen, fastest lap on the second lap, half a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton to extend the gap to 1.4 seconds, and they're both still ticking along absolutely fine for the moment.
So Verstappen across the line sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso got an absolutely rocket start and was sending one up the inside of Gasly into turn 1. Is that where it all went wrong for Gasly? He then had a bit of contact on the exit, but he was still up there in the mix. Oh, and there's the touch in a straight line. Charles Leclerc nudged into the back of Pierre Gasly, and that would have given him basically an instant puncture.
Needless, I think, from Leclerc as well. On the straight, he had space to the left-hand side, but just moved across to the right, where Gasly was side by side with Alonso already. Instant puncture for Gasly. That's probably why he went straight on at the next corner as well, and also why we got front wing damage and Leclerc in the pits at the end of the first lap. Pretty needless, and that was for a good position inside the top 10 for both of them.
Yeah, very innocuous moment really, but it has brought the end to both of their races. Verstappen leading the way, 1.6 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Lando Norris is 2.3 seconds back. Now Perez is behind Lando Norris. They're on the same strategy. There's less than a second between them, both on the soft tyre, but Valtteri Bottas in 5th is on the medium tyre, and the Bottas-Perez-Norris battle is going to be fascinating, I think, throughout this Grand Prix. And I think it was Gasly out of control with the puncture that got into the back of Giovinazzi.
Yeah, it was Giovinazzi and then Latifi out wide there as well. I have to say it's a poor bit of driving from Leclerc. Really poor on the straight, just coming across on Gasly. And that then caused the incident up at turn 3. This is the sound of Gasly going so slow into the corner, but he's got no grip, and he tipped poor Antonio Giovinazzi and then Nicholas Latifi, which meant Latifi had to pit at the end of the first lap as well. Leclerc's still going in the race, as is Latifi. They're at the back, but Gasly is not, and he was actually really the innocent party. Leclerc with a poor bit of driving, pretty much the same as he had with Vettel when they tangled as Ferrari teammates in Brazil, needlessly driving in a straight line into Gasly, misjudged the length of his car, and is
Try to stay out of toe for brakes. Stay out of toe for brakes.
Suggest yellow G3, yellow G3.
Yeah, I'd say not according to race test at the moment, but maybe.
Message understood. You should have broken DRS. Cancel that. Perez has DRS. He has it.
And we had track limits turn 9 last lap. Track limits turn 9.
Go defend to fill the pack. Let's go defend, gap at 1.2 behind.
Okay, place I can improve.
And stand by. So main areas, braking turn 3, braking turn 4.
So Perez 2 seconds ahead, just close the gap, but don't take anything out of the tyres.
The rears are starting to go.
Okay, let's focus on those entry lifts and exit management.
Gap 2.8, same lap time.
Repetitive, almost. Hang on, here comes an overtake attempt from, oh, it's not that exciting. It's Charles Leclerc going past Nikita Mazepin for 16th position. And the Ferrari driver, who's recovering after a collision on the opening lap, gets up into 16th. But does it feel a longer race because there are more laps, even though it isn't?
It actually flies by, this one, because you're just lapping so quickly. The corners just come up at you all the time very quick. There's always chances of overtaking, and the battles are quite tight. Even if the Leclerc overtake there on Mazepin is the first one we've seen. Actually, well, we saw Norris drop through the field, but apart from that, the rest of the midfield are in a bit of a train, actually behind Lance Stroll in 6th place, who's ahead of Alonso. Russell ticking along well, still just 1 second behind Alonso on his new medium tyres, but that train is basically just backing up everyone. But because if you make a mistake, you're going to be passed at the next corner. There's a bit of jeopardy in there in terms of racing and overtaking. And the corners are quite fast as well, so it does fly by this Grand Prix, I think.
Lap 15 of 71. Hamilton has dropped back now to 3.2 seconds behind Max Verstappen in the lead of the Grand Prix. Make that 3.3. As they come through the middle sector of the lap once again. Sergio Perez 15 seconds off the lead of the race of Max Verstappen. Valtteri Bottas fractionally quicker than Sergio Perez on that last lap, only by a tenth of a second, but the gap between them is 3.4 seconds. Norris is 3.4 seconds back from them, but he's in 5th place. He's actually managed to extend his advantage over Lance Stroll in 6th in the Aston Martin. Ever since he got passed by Perez and Bottas, he is still pulling away from the rest of the midfield. So still positive for Lando Norris, and you get the feeling that could sort of be the end of his afternoon, where he's in 5th now for the next hour and 10 minutes.
Which would be a good drive from Lando, even though he started 3rd. He's in a slower car quite clearly than the Red Bulls and the Mercedes. But he's beaten everyone else, or in 16 laps so far, he's a long way ahead of everyone else, and ticking along very nicely still. Stroll is definitely bottling everyone else further back, because he's not got the pace in the Aston Martin, but he's doing a good job after that start and gaining on the first few corners, up in 6th position. We've got a bit of a slow burner on our hands today. Verstappen and Hamilton in a duel for the win, but 3 seconds the gap. Fairly stable, although again on this lap Hamilton's just dropping slightly further away, and then we're going to have a battle for 3rd as well, with the other Red Bull ahead of the other Mercedes, Perez ahead of Bottas, and we're going to see it through the pit stop phase, and then probably later on through the Grand Prix these positions decided, because at the moment everyone's in a bit of a holding pattern, not wanting to root their tyres too quickly.
Red Bull, Mercedes are the top 4 at the moment. It's the end of India's innings, so let's get an update from Amy Lofthouse. Thank you very much. Of course, Test Match Special also on 5 Live Sports Extra at the moment. We're on 17.71, lap 17 of 71. We haven't gone that far back in time of the Styrian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen leading now 3.8 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Now, George Russell started this race on the medium tyre because he qualified 11th, so he had a free tyre choice, and those mediums are now coming into play.
Okay, George, we need to convert to plan B for reliability. So let's pick up the pace.
Oh, interesting. So George Russell being told we need to convert to plan B for reliability, so we need to pick up the pace. So Russell in 8th place is really close to the back of Fernando Alonso in the Alpine for 7th position. But why would they need to change for reliability?
I am assuming that's talking about doing a mammoth stint on a set of tyres. Reliability of the tyres, because picking up the pace in any other way is normally not good for reliability. You want to stay off the curbs, you can short shift or do various other things for other components, suspension, gearbox or engine, but picking up the pace doesn't really affect them too much in the short run. But it obviously means they're probably likely to plan B, move to an earlier pit stop to not run whichever set of tyres they were thinking about too long. I'm assuming that's in as a consequence of what happened in Baku, where drivers ran a hard tyre quite a long way and had issues with it at the end. It's a pretty odd message to say, we're worried about reliability, pick up the pace.
Lap 18 of 71. Across the line again come the race leaders, and Verstappen is 4 seconds clear now of Lewis Hamilton. So that gap has gone up and up. Meanwhile, Antonio Giovinazzi is attacking the back of Esteban Ocon. It's only for 14th position, but the other Alpine of Fernando Alonso is up in 7th place, and Ocon, after a very strong start to the season for the French team, formerly Renault, is struggling, especially this weekend. He was comfortably out-qualified by Alonso and now comfortably being out-raced.
Definitely struggling a little bit.
Hamilton definitely struggling a little bit. And Verstappen...
Oh, Carl, look more difficult to drive now.
also struggling a little bit. The car more difficult to drive now.
4 seconds the gap, so Verstappen has just nudged it away, which is important coming towards a pit stop phase, because we know that's the window that could be crucial. Just ask Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes after the French Grand Prix last week, where Verstappen was in range and managed to jump in with an undercut. Verstappen right now just extending the gap, which means he cannot be undercut from 4 seconds back. So important laps at the moment from Verstappen, and Hamilton not able to live with him, but he's still not being caught by Perez or Bottas behind there. Now matching pace, 12.5 seconds Hamilton ahead of Perez.
It's Jolyon Palmer, the former Renault F1 driver, alongside me, Jack Nicholls, lap 20 of 71. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, on these tyres, the teams are saying there's no real warm-up issue when it comes to putting these tyres on, so it is possible that the undercut could be quite strong around here. We'll have to wait and see for the first cars to do it, and last time out it was totally different from what everybody expected it to be, but certainly all of the pit crews ready to pounce as soon as they're given the word. Hard tyre can go long here. Pirelli reckon up to a maximum of 50 laps. Now that does seem a lot, and people may be struggling with tyres more than they expected right now.
Well, 50 laps, that means you're sort of approaching the pit window now, if you wanted to be, and as we're on lap 20 of 71, and the undercut, when you come in before your rival, put on a fresh set of tyres and go quickly before they can react and pit, was stronger in France than was anticipated, but Hamilton doesn't feel like he's in that region versus Verstappen to me.
He's too far back. He's just too far back, 4 seconds. Verstappen was about 3 seconds back from Hamilton last time out, but also this is a short lap, which means the undercut will never be as powerful as it is on a longer lap, because those tyres that are old and want changing compared to a new set of tyres, they have only got to do 7 corners. In France, you had to do 15 corners.
So you're stronger than Lewis in low speed.
Valtteri Bottas being told in the slower corners you're going quicker than Lewis Hamilton, and the slower corners are where it's best to be faster, because you're in the slower corners for a longer period of time because you're going slower. So the faster you are through the slower corners, the faster you are, if that makes any sense.
And the faster you are through the faster corners, the faster you are.
Well, that's very
the
true.
Genius
That's
of it, Jack.
very true. So the faster you are overall, the faster you are.
Oh, you're good at this. You're really getting the hang of Formula 1.
I've cracked it. I've cracked it. The two Haas drivers going absolutely wheel to wheel. Mick Schumacher trying to overtake Nikita Mazepin. They're battling over not being last, and Schumacher has had a big lockup, and Mazepin is through then in that position at the moment in 17th place, and Schumacher's going to be struggling with those tyres for the rest of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think Mick was trying to put the move on Mazepin. Got quite hairy up at turn 3 between the two. Mazepin gave him the space, and then trying to complete the move at turn 4, he overcooked it, had a massive lockup, and Mazepin came back through. But that's the two Haas drivers who are pretty much at the back, just ahead of Nicholas Latifi, who had that lap 1 pit stop after a bit of contact.
Now, George Russell has dropped back from Fernando Alonso a little bit, so I just wonder if it's kind of engine temperature or something like that, because apparently they're talking about pitting him 4 laps earlier than planned, so maybe just to get him out of the dirty air of Alonso, because if you're behind the hot air coming off an F1 engine, it's hotter air than the cool Styrian air.
But then it's a misleading message then. Why don't they just tell him to not use the slipstream of Alonso, pull out on the straights, or tell him to pass Alonso, not just go quicker?
Well, maybe that was the point. We'll pick up the pace and then get Alonso, and then we can cool down. But if you can't, you've got to drop back potentially.
He's still done a personal best lap. He's still 1.2 seconds behind Alonso, so
yeah,
it doesn't make sense to me that he's not driving as if that's the case right now, unless we have further radio communication from the Williams team. And George still running a good race in 8th position, and with a personal best lap on the last lap. So he's holding ground in 8th, which is a cracking position for Williams to be in. He is quicker than Alonso, but Alonso on the soft tyres is just holding everyone back a little bit, and he's in turn still stuck behind Lance Stroll within 2 seconds. So it's Stroll that's the cork in the bottle still.
Max Verstappen has just set the fastest lap of the race, only 0.3 faster than Lewis Hamilton, but the gap is now up to 4.9 seconds between Verstappen in the lead in the Red Bull and Hamilton in second. If it finishes like this, Verstappen's lead will go up to 20 points.
You're gaining hand over fist there.
Bottas being told you're gaining hand over fist. 0.4 seconds on that last lap, quicker than Sergio Perez in 3rd place. So maybe hand over fist is a bit dramatic, but a decent chunk of time for Bottas, closing in on Perez. He's 2.2 seconds back from the Red Bull driver in third position. So it's Verstappen, Hamilton, then a gap of 14 seconds to Perez and Bottas. Lando Norris sitting comfortably in fifth place, 12 seconds clear of Lance Stroll in sixth, and then as Jolyon says, he's the stopper in the bottle with Stroll, Alonso, Russell, Tsunoda, Sainz, the rest of the top 10, Vettel, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Ocon and Leclerc the top 15, Giovinazzi, Schumacher, Mazepin and Latifi, the 19 drivers still in this Styrian Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly out of the race for AlphaTauri, lap 24 of 71.
Okay, Checo, so Bottas is closing in.
Safety car and VSC window open. Safety car and VSC window.
And now Perez is being told that Bottas is closing in, but Bottas won't be closing in that much because he's up behind one of the Haas drivers. It's Nikita Mazepin who is really holding up Bottas into the first corner.
Hideous from Mazepin, had to be letting the lead cars through, and Bottas lost a lot of ground there in the first sector behind Mazepin, who didn't get off the racing line in the back marking Haas car, so lost a little bit there.
Hand over fist.
It's an odd saying, isn't it, to tell your Finnish driver whose first language isn't English that you're catching hand over fist. He's obviously got a very good grasp of the English language, Valtteri Bottas. We know that because we hear him all the time. But I wonder where that comes from.
I don't know what hand over fist.
You don't hear it and think, no, that's a great thing.
Well,
hand over fist.
Well, his engineer is Riccardo Mosconi, who I don't think is English either. So. Yeah, it's interesting that has come into their lexicon. Charles Leclerc goes around the outside of Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, and he is up into 14th place now, Leclerc, as he continues to climb back up the order. We think climbing a rope is why hand over fist, but why would you catch someone hand over fist? Or pulling a rope? Something to do with a rope on a ship?
Oh, massive moment for Hamilton. Massive slide coming out of turn 4. Hamilton.
Small vibrations.
Starting to get small vibrations, he said. He nearly had a very big vibration in the gravel trap.
Oh, I thought he was off. He's held it. He's 5 seconds away from Verstappen. But, wow, I thought we were having a spinning Mercedes out of second place. Got wide out of turn 4. We've had a few spins there this weekend. And Lewis very nearly out from the second place in the race. Oh, he just got a little bit sideways on the exit, and that just dragged him out towards the gravel. Did he just touch the gravel with the left rear? Yes, he absolutely did, which didn't help him either. But brilliant car control in the end means he doesn't spin like some of those other drivers in the weekend, and he stays second. But whoa, heart in mouth time that for Hamilton.
Also lost 0.6 of a second to Max Verstappen, so the gap is up to 5.1 seconds between Max Verstappen leading the Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton in second, Perez is third, 1.5 seconds ahead of Bottas, so he's still hand over fisting to the back of Sergio Perez. Not sure that's the right way to use that phrase, but into the pits now comes George Russell. So Russell pits early from 8th place. Here's Verstappen.
The wind makes it difficult.
Okay, the wind makes it difficult, says Verstappen. George Russell into the pits then. Stops early on his medium tyres, which is unusual because you would have expected him to go a bit longer. It's slow on the left rear. Not the neatest of pit stops at all from the Williams team. It's not moving. All the tyres have changed. There's something going on at the bottom right. Are they putting air in the system or something?
Yeah, I think they're putting air in the pneumatic system, are they? Oh, no.
So that must have been what the reliability concerns were. They needed to put air in the pneumatic system by the looks of things, and Russell's pit stop was 18 seconds as opposed to 2.
I apologise.
Are you taking full responsibility for that with your commentator?
Oh, it was too early, wasn't it? Gutting. Bad stop for Perez, really bad stop for Perez in the Red Bull as well. 4.8 seconds, and this might be a chance for Bottas in their fight for the podium.
Really good chance then for Bottas to take third place because Sergio Perez has come in, pitted. He's put on the soft tyre that he's going to be... the medium tyre that he's... There we go, the hard tyre. We were going to get there in the end, that he's gone out on in the Red Bull. But Bottas will be staying out there a bit longer, but that's a big advantage.
Everything you got? Strap 5.
Bottas being told to give everything you've got.
And that's because they can see there's a chance to pit now and do an overcut after that horrible stop for Red Bull, who are usually so good at their pit stops. But this time they've fluffed one for Perez, and Bottas has a chance to jump him in the stops here. Strat 5 is give it full beans and pit this lap. And he is on a personal best lap as he's coming through turns 9 and 10. Does he dive for the pit lane now, Valtteri Bottas, in the battle for third? Yes, he does.
Okay, so Bottas pits now, despite being on the medium tyre, despite potentially being able to go for longer into this Grand Prix. They're going to try and take advantage of that slow pit stop for the Red Bull team. It's very quick for Mercedes. Bottas gets out, and that stop was 2 seconds quicker than the Sergio Perez pit stop for Red Bull. Here he comes now to the exit of the pit lane, and he's surely going to come out in front of Perez. Perez coming down the start-finish straight now into the right-hander of turn 1. Perez will be up to speed a little more, but it's not going to be enough. Bottas goes through and is into a net third position now. So Red Bull lead, Mercedes second, effectively Mercedes third and Red Bull fourth. Lando Norris in third place is still yet to pit, but that has really not gone well for Red Bull, who are pretty much the quickest pit stoppers out there. Now, Hamilton coming to the pits next time around. In comes the Mercedes driver, lap 29 of 71. He's going to go onto the hard tyre, but surely he's not going to have enough to come out and undercut the Red Bull leading Max Verstappen here.
Nowhere near. He won't be. But 2.2 second stop. It's a good one from Mercedes, but Verstappen is too far up the road. This is just Hamilton complaining of some vibrations, and Mercedes then will trigger a pit stop there and not wanting to risk running the tyre too long. And Hamilton's going to come out comfortably in second place still. But Verstappen has the race still in hand with his gap that he had before Lewis pitted. It was towards 7 seconds in the end.
So lap 29 of 71, Verstappen leads the Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton is second but has made his pit stop. Third is Lando Norris, who is yet to pit. Fourth is Valtteri Bottas, who has pitted and is now 2 seconds clear of Sergio Perez, both now on the hard tyre. Lance Stroll has just pitted from 6th position, and so that will all shake out. George Russell, here's Verstappen's radio.
Box and pit confirm, please, Max. Box, pit confirm.
And now that's Verstappen coming into the pit lane. So is this going to be a neat and tidy pit stop for the Red Bull team? A bit of a fluff with the pit stop of his teammate Sergio Perez. So there'll be a little bit of pressure in the mechanics here as Verstappen pulls into the stop. All 4 wheels come off, they're back on, away he goes, quick as you like. And Verstappen will resume the lead of the Grand Prix. 2.0 seconds that pit stop for Red Bull, and Verstappen is out in front.
If they could have replicated that for Perez, he'd still be in third as well. But slow one for Perez has meant that that's the change of position for third and fourth, but Verstappen emerges still a long way clear of Hamilton, and with tyres that will take him to the end of the race and Hamilton to the end of the race. So Lewis needs to find some pace if he's going to win this one, because so far the Red Bull have covered them off in the pit stops. That's not happened, and pace, they look stronger at the moment.
So this is all about who makes it to the end. Got 42 laps remaining.
Okay, Hamilton being told this is all about who makes it to the end. 42 laps remaining. So that's a play the long game kind of message, isn't it? So Verstappen leads, Hamilton second, and George Russell, after running so strongly in the top 10, Jenny Gow, now all the way down in 18th position.
Yeah, commentator curse. We're all blaming Jolyon, of course, for that one. He's actually had to come into the pits again, so he's done a double stop, gone onto a used set of the hard tyre. Disastrous day. They're managing a power unit issue, say Williams, but what a chance they had, and it's just disappeared to nothing.
It was the left rear for Perez that was very slow, didn't come off cleanly, and the Red Bull crew, normally so good, missed that one. And Bottas, who's had his own pit stop dramas this year, has gained a place in that phase. But yeah, so gutting for Russell, who was having it by miles his best drive in Williams, and he's had some good drives. Was 12th last weekend in France in a race that all 20 cars finished. He wasn't there with reliability or anything else. He just had a good drive, and this time he was up in the midfield. He was in the upper midfield in 8th position. He's not going to score points from here now. Such cruel luck.
Thank you to John and Joe and others. Hashtag BBC F1. Apparently the original phrase was hand over hand, and it comes from being on the ship and you're doing something steadily, hand over hand, pulling the ropes. There we go, developed into hand over fist. That 31 of 71. You might learn nothing about Formula One listening to Radio 5 Live, but you've now learned the etymology of the idiom handover fist. Lap 31 of 71. Verstappen leads 4.5 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton in second place, and Verstappen bangs in the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Absolutely on great form here, Max Verstappen. So often this year, we've seen the Mercedes come good on race day, but not today. Well, so far anyway. We're almost at the halfway point of the race, and Verstappen's bossing it.
Only 1/10 quicker than Hamilton, though, on the last lap, so not masses in it, and there never has been, but it's just been a steady eking out of the gap, and 4.5 seconds now is a handy position to be in. This is the sign of Norris through the pit lane in the McLaren. Stuffed a rich getaway from him. Pit stop was good, but Norris didn't manage to release the clutch well enough, and had to take a second bite at it to get away, but should still be safe.
BBW failed there. Quickly.
We're looking into it, Max.
Okay, Verstappen saying a BBW fail there quickly. Now, BBW is brake by wire, so in modern Formula One cars, instead of the brake sort of directly going to the brake pads and onto the wheels themselves, it's all done electronically. So the braking goes to a sensor, and then that is applied to the brakes. So a BBW fail, a brake-by-wire failure, is not something you want at all for Max Verstappen in the lead of the Grand Prix.
No, in the electronic systems then of the brakes, that determines where you're getting your brake pressures, basically front and rear as well. But he's still ticking along okay, but that must have been a warning on the dash that's popped up, which is very disconcerting when you're driving.
Got a lot of D-rates everywhere.
And Hamilton's saying a lot of D-rates everywhere. You can explain that one now as well.
That's clipping. When he's running out of energy from his the electric motor on the hybrid system, he's basically harvesting energy at the end of the straight, which probably means he used a little bit more at some point, maybe in the pit stop phase, deployed more energy from the battery, and now he's having to harvest it to regenerate the energy, and that's what Lewis is complaining of.
All hybrid engines in the back of these Formula One cars. Max Verstappen leading the way. Hamilton setting the fastest lap of the race at the moment. Verstappen on that last lap was only a tenth slower than the best lap that he's managed previously, so as a result, he's still not seeming to struggle too much. Hamilton now sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and he goes 7 tenths quicker than Verstappen.
These will be the critical laps for the stint. These are the critical laps for the stint.
Verstappen being told these are the critical laps for the stint. We're almost at the halfway mark, lap 34 of 71.
I think the irony of that is don't go too quick at this point, because that's where you can do a lot of harm to your tyres. And whilst Hamilton's just taken 6 tenths out of Verstappen in one lap, we heard GP, Verstappen's engineer, getting on the radio and just saying this is going to be all about who can go to the end now, and it's going to be critical not to do too much damage to the tyres when they're first on, and just look after them, because they have got a fair distance to go on these hard tyres.
Max Verstappen leads 4.4 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton in second. Valtteri Bottas is third, 3.2 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. That gap had come down to 2 seconds at one point, but he's managed to extend it, as Sergio Perez. Carlos Sainz is in fifth position now for the Ferrari team. He's yet to pit. He's just ahead of Lando Norris, who has pitted. So Norris still in a net fifth position. Raikkonen in seventh has yet to pit. Daniel Ricciardo in eighth has yet to pit. Charles Leclerc is ninth. He has made a pit stop, but very early on to replace a front wing, so he may well have to pit again. Esteban Ocon completes the top 10, and then Alonso is, Stroll, is at the head of those midfielders who have pitted. Stroll, Alonso, Tsunoda, Vettel and Giovinazzi. Mick Schumacher has just pitted in the Haas from 16th position. Mazepin, Russell, Latifi, the 19 drivers still running. Pierre Gasly out on the opening lap. Jenny Gao.
Yeah, just worth saying that those who started on the softs or the mediums or the hards, there's not been a huge amount of difference in them. The only person that started on the hards was Raikkonen, admittedly. Team Radio.
Max, expect Hamilton to push. We're fine for the moment. We're comfortable with the plan. Seemed like we had better degradation at the end of that last stint as well.
So Verstappen being told, we're expecting Hamilton to push, expect him to close the gap a little bit, but it's cool. We got this under control. Jenny?
All sorted, thank you. Yeah, the medium seems to go on for quite a decent amount of time. Sainz is still on the tyre he started with. He's done 34 laps on there, as has Ocon, as has Ricciardo. The hard tyre, it's hard to get a gauge on at the moment, but that looks like it will go and go. But the softs are so similar to those mediums. The gap between the two seems to have been nullified around this track at the moment.
On that last lap, Hamilton was a tenth slower than Verstappen.
Do I need to manage more?
Lewis, we're thinking the other direction. Let's try and close that gap down.
Okay, so Hamilton's saying... Well, okay, so here's the question. Barcelona, Hamilton is running behind Verstappen, does a pit stop, puts on a new set of tyres and has to chase him down for the win. Last time out, Paul Ricard. Verstappen is slower than Hamilton, puts on a new set of tyres and has to chase him down for the win. Verstappen did the same in Bahrain. Is that something worth looking at here, or not going to be the case?
It's probably not going to be the case if the degradation is low, and Red Bull are not particularly worried about that right now. In fact, they're saying, don't worry about Hamilton catching you again now, because we're going to have better tyres for the end of the race. Maybe that's what Mercedes are looking at, to just go and chase Verstappen down, put him under some pressure, and then take a chance of a second pit stop, and see if the Red Bull car at the front does start dropping its tyres and having degradation at the end of the race. Then maybe it could come to Lewis, but it's a bit of you're not going to win, so just chance your arm with something different, I think, compared to it really being in the balance in those other Grand Prix that you spoke about. This time the degradation is lower, and one stop is a lot more simple. It only worked in those other ones because the degradation was higher than anticipated in France, in Barcelona as well, and Bahrain. Here it's going to be tougher one to pull off. Lap 37 of 71 in the Styrian Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live, and it is Max Verstappen leading 4.3 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton in second. This is Daniel Ricciardo.
Box to overtake Raikkonen. Box to overtake Raikkonen.
So Ricciardo being told to come into the pits to overtake Kimi Raikkonen. Alfa Romeo seem to have heard that message, and then McLaren played a little funny one here, because they said box to overtake Raikkonen. Alfa Romeo and Kimi Raikkonen have responded by pitting, but then McLaren haven't pitted.
Well, box to overtake actually means pit unless he pits. So it's the option of basically the worst thing for Ricciardo when you're stuck behind another driver is to pit at the same lap. Then you both go out with the same tyres, and you've got to do all the hard work on track. So with Raikkonen pitting, they've protected against the undercut from Ricciardo. Ricciardo doesn't want to follow him into the pits, and that's the box to overtake rather than just a box, which means come into the pit box. So Ricciardo saw Raikkonen peel in and just keeps going now in 7th place, but he's still going to do a pit stop.
That 38 of 71. Verstappen leads 4 seconds clear now of Hamilton, so Hamilton has closed the gap a little more. Bottas is 20 seconds back from the front two. Perez has closed in a little on Valtteri Bottas for 3rd position. The Red Bull driver closing in on the Mercedes man. Charles Leclerc has come into the pits. It looks as though Daniel Ricciardo, thought he was going to come in that time around because McLaren were poised and ready to go, but it doesn't look like he has come in. Charles Leclerc is in for his 2nd pit stop of the race, having had to pit on the opening lap, having picked up front wing damage. And Hamilton set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix last time. No, it wasn't actually last time around, but he was setting a quick lap this time. But the gap's remaining at about 4 seconds. Hamilton not seeming to have an answer to Max Verstappen out in the lead of the race.
Leclerc's teammate Carlos Sainz is ticking along still without having done a pit stop as George Russell gets wheeled back in and out of the Grand Prix. Tough time for George, but once again the main thing is for him, he's shown his potential, and big goal for Russell is to end up in the Mercedes for next year, and I think he's still showing the world what he can do this weekend, even if it's another one with no points, very sadly for him and the Williams team, who actually really deserved it, because they're midfielders this weekend. They're back in the fight, which is good news. And the other good news is we're back at this circuit next week where they're going well at, so George can have another crack at it then. But Sainz in 5th place, still running long, and he's going to be able to try and come back at the likes of Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso at the end of the race. He's bringing himself back into play in that midfield mix.
Jolien, we know F1 can be so cruel on occasions like this. Williams had a really good weekend up to this point. Who does that hurt more? I'm guessing it's the team, it's Williams, it's all the mechanics and the engineers who are working their socks off. Yes, it hurts Russell, but he can still move on from it in a way. He's showing off what he can do.
I think it just hurts both, really. Russell's showing off what he can do, and it's great, but you still want the result. It's not a lot of comfort when you've got a blank next to your name still. And he's had a few times where he's had chances at points, this year as well at Imola, and he had a crash that spoilt it. Last year at Imola, he had a crash that spoilt it. So sometimes he's been guilty of not maximising it, but this time the car's let him down. Just frustration all round. There is comfort, though, in the fact that he's racing with Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel. He's racing with the big guns in the midfield, and there's progress there for the team.
Was a
so
10.5. If you
to
can
defeat
get him, we're good.
Ultimately, it's a team game, and you've got to take it as driver and team together, and it will hurt for a team that's not scored points and a driver that's never scored points for the team. But they've got to try and bounce back next week and do it again.
Cash as well for Williams. If Russell had been able to finish in 8th place, that would have been 4 points. That would have moved them to 8th place in the Constructors' Championship. There's 10 teams in the Constructors' Championship. They're basically fighting over 8th with Alfa Romeo and Haas, and it would have put them a long way closer to getting a bigger payout at the end of the year for the team that have struggled financially recently.
Yeah, and Haas will be last, barring any crazy race and they pick up some points. They're just constantly tail end Charlies. But Alfa Romeo have had a turn of pace at times, with both Giovinazzi and Raikkonen scoring a point each. So that would be the goal for Williams, to get above them. They've still got a long way to go this season to do that. But it would have been nice to get the points in the bag and actually leapfrog them in one first swoop.
Jenny?
Does it help that they've got another race here next weekend? They know they've shown good pace so far. Yes, tyres are different next weekend, but this clearly is a track that can suit them when their power unit doesn't break.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. They've qualified a genuine 11th. They're racing in a genuine 8th. Okay, maybe Gasly and Leclerc should have been ahead if they didn't come together, but often in a race, 2 people from the top 10 come together and you've got to pick up the pieces. It's a good chance for them again next weekend to build on this and have another shot at the points.
Charles Leclerc is trying to make an overtake on the Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen. Looks to the inside, coming up into turn 3, and the Ferrari driver is through. Collided with... Oh no, he's not through. So great traction on the outside of turn 3 for Kimi Raikkonen. You can get some good grip up high there, and Leclerc now goes side by side down into 4 and then makes the move stick. Did he just clip Raikkonen's front wing coming into the braking zone there?
Yeah, I wonder if Raikkonen just did exactly the Leclerc move on Gasly coming into turn 4. I think it was Raikkonen moving, changing his trajectory as they came onto the brakes at turn 4. It looked like they just had a tiny clip of a front wing and a rear tyre, but both are still going on okay. So if they did, it was minuscule and they got away with it.
I wonder if Leclerc intentionally didn't pass Raikkonen there in order that he would then get the DRS down to turn 4 and then make the move stick a little bit more easily. Not sure, but it was a weird one because it looked as though he'd made the move. Ricciardo into the pits and Carlos Sainz into the pits. So Sainz in from 5th, and he has emerged just in front of Fernando Alonso and up in 7th place. So that's worked out pretty well for the Ferrari driver, although he's only just ahead of Alonso as they come through the right-hander of turn 3 and now start to drop down towards turn 4. Alonso kind of needs to make the move now or never, and I think it's going to be never for Alonso. Through the right-hander of 4 they come, and Sainz holds on. Does he to that 7th place? Yes. So Verstappen leads, Hamilton 2nd. Now everyone has made a pit stop. Bottas is 3rd, Perez 4th, Norris 5th, Stroll in 6th, Sainz in 7th, Alonso 8th, Yuki Tsunoda in 9th, Sebastian Vettel now up into 10th position with Giovinazzi, Leclerc, Raikkonen, Ocon, Ricciardo the top 15, Schumacher, Mazepin, Latifi the 18 drivers.
Leclerc's got a chance of scoring some points here still. Having made 2 pit stops, one at the end of the first lap for a damaged front wing, he's up in 12th and on a charge. He's actually having a really good Grand Prix and can still come through for some points despite that lap 1 contact that took out Pierre Gasly. And Carlos Sainz in the other Ferrari doing a good job there to go long, made the tyres last, and now he's in a good position.
Yeah, I think it took my front wing.
Yeah, so Leclerc did move out. That was Raikkonen saying, I think he took my front wing. It was 50-50. Leclerc was moving over a little earlier than you would expect, and Raikkonen was drifting over to the left a bit more than you would expect.
There was just a convergence, wasn't there, from one side to the other from both drivers, and they came together and they did have a slight touch, but it looks like they've got away with it. Twice, though, for Leclerc, one on the front wing and one on the tyre.
England's women have begun their reply against India at Bristol. That's on 5 Live Sports Extra right now, and we can go to the British Championship Athletics in Manchester and join Mike Costello. Great stuff, thank you, Mike. Here on the Styrian Grand Prix, we are on lap 45 of 71, and Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari is trying to overtake Lance Stroll in 6th place in the Aston Martin, and he's going to do it here fairly comfortably. Nice work from the Spaniard. He gets to the inside, coming down to turn 4, and the Ferrari driver moves up into 6th place. So Verstappen leads, Hamilton 2nd, Bottas 3rd, Perez 4th, Norris 5th, and Jolyon Palmer, reasonable move from Carlos Sainz.
He didn't want to pass him at turn 3, just backed off before the braking zone to make sure he had DRS exit at turn 3, and then he made it through.
How much do we lose on the straights to them?
Yeah, so from free air running, looks like 2.5 tenths in straight line.
He's really hung up about the straight line speed. It's always, what are we losing on the straights? What are we losing on the straights? But actually, it's not just about engine power. It's about downforce level as well. And how many times have we seen Mercedes be dominant on the straights in this era? Red Bull, possibly with a lower downforce setting, which should hinder their corners, their cornering ability, but take the gain on the straights. But at the moment, they're taking the gain on the straights without losing anything really through the corners. And Hamilton, I think it's a bit of frustration for the driver there. 5.5 seconds behind Verstappen. Verstappen looks fairly untouchable through the Grand Prix so far. And when you blame it on the straights, big move from Charles Leclerc up the inside of Antonio Giovinazzi. Big lunge into turn 3. That was a really smart move from Leclerc, and he made it stick. And he's going to defend down in towards turn 4. So Leclerc's up to 11th. Ferrari are charging. I wonder if Sainz can even have a run at Norris possibly before the race is done for 5th position. He's 12 seconds back. And with a Ferrari that's got fresher tyres and a lot of pace. But yeah, the drivers, you basically feel like the straights is not your domain. It's not your fault. Yeah, if you're losing on the straights, there's nothing you can do about it. Everyone's obviously just flat out. And then it's just all about the car. So the corners is where the drivers earn their crust. And Hamilton basically saying, we're losing on the straights? Yeah, we're losing on the straights. Nothing you can do about it. Lovely. Great to have a get out of jail free card, isn't it? Jenny Gow.
And just having a look at everybody's tyre selections, it's kind of all gone towards the hard tyre, apart from 2 of the drivers. That's Kimi Räikkönen, who went hard to a medium, and also Charles Leclerc, forced to come in after that first lap mess, so went onto the hard tyre early after 1 lap, and is now on the medium tyre, and as you've already suggested, showing really good pace on that medium tyre, and it looks like Leclerc can do some nice stuff with that. So nice to see somebody doing something a little different, even if they were forced into it.
Yeah, well, he had to pit on the opening lap, didn't he, after that contact with Pierre Gasly, who remains the only... Well, no, he's the second retirement, isn't he, now, because George Russell had to retire a few laps ago. Verstappen leading 6 seconds clear now of Lewis Hamilton, so Red Bull thought that Hamilton would try and close the gap in. Hamilton was told to try and close the gap, but it hasn't ended up that way, has it? 6 seconds between Verstappen in the lead and Hamilton second. 22 seconds back to Bottas in third, and Sergio Perez in fourth has closed that gap down. It was about 3 seconds, I think. It's now come down to 1.5, so Perez in the Red Bull looking a little bit racy. On that last lap, Lando Norris was about half a second slower than Carlos Sainz in 6th position, so 13 seconds between them. You mentioned that Sainz might be able to close in on Norris. He's chipping away at it, but still a long way to go. 7th is Lance Stroll, 8th is Fernando Alonso, 9th is Yuki Tsunoda, and 10th is Sebastian Vettel.
Just trying to bring the tyres back to the temperature. That pushing level there was unnecessary. I cooked the tyres.
So Bottas basically, by the sounds of it, saying he cooked the tyres. I imagine sort of straight out of the pit lane, built up that aforementioned lead to Sergio Perez. Now he says he's cooked them, and Perez is reaping the benefits of Bottas's kitchen antics.
Yeah, he's now just trying to cool them off again, go a little bit slower, give them an easier time for a few laps, and then the tyres can come to life. But it does mean that Perez, through consistency, is able to just put the pressure on again now, and there's only so much you can chill out when you're in third place and there's a Red Bull right behind you. Bottas, if he's forced to just keep driving on his cooked tyres, they only get worse from there. So Perez now, this is the time to put the pressure on. 1.4 seconds back. Don't let Bottas have a breather. And then we know the Red Bull car's quick. Verstappen looking good out front against Hamilton. That's a sort of a display of how good the Red Bull car is today. Hamilton with no answer in second place. Now Perez and Bottas are in the same cars, Red Bull and Mercedes, and it's the Red Bull in that case that's behind after the slow stop earlier on. So Perez has just got to start putting the pressure on.
Lap 49 of 71. Verstappen leads, Hamilton in second. Third is Valtteri Bottas. Fourth is Sergio Perez. Fifth is Lando Norris. Sainz in sixth. Stroll, Alonso, Tsunoda and Vettel. The rest of the top 10, Leclerc's just 1.1 seconds off the back of Sebastian Vettel in that fight over 10th position and the last points paying position.
It's dangerous.
And
imagine it's a braking zone.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Hamilton here looks as though he's going to lose another big chunk of points to Max Verstappen, and there's something psychological, I would imagine, when you get more than a race win of points ahead of your rival. Now, at the end of this Grand Prix, as it stands, Verstappen's lead would go to 18 points at the top of the championship. It could be 20 if he were to secure the fastest lap in the remaining laps. But 20, you get 25 points for a race win, so it's edging closer and closer. It's the same track next week. If Verstappen wins today and next week at the same circuit, he'll have more than a race wins advantage over Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, and the pressure's on Mercedes. It really is. They've been beaten fair and square here. And, well, they have so far anyway. Still some time to go. Leclerc's going to put a move on Sebastian Vettel. Bit of wheel spin, a lot of wheel spin coming out of turn 3 for Leclerc, but he's still got the DRS and can attack his former teammate now at Aston Martin, Sebastian Vettel, but he's got no defence to Leclerc, and he has a big old lock-up at turn 4 as well, which his hard tyres won't thank him for. He doesn't want to pit again before the end of the race, or he definitely won't score a point. As it is, he's just dropped from 10th to 11th, which means he won't score one anyway. Hamilton can pit for fastest lap. He's got to be taking fastest lap out of this as a bare minimum, which will mean it's a 6-point loss rather than anything 7 or 8, which would take the gap to 20 points. But it's the worry is it's the same track next week, and Red Bull are looking strong, and they've looked strong here in the past as well.
Verstappen leading the way, 6.5 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton in second position, Valtteri Bottas third. In getting overtaken for 10th place, Sebastian Vettel had a big lock-up on his right front, which will be a struggle to manage for the remaining 21 laps. Leclerc is now on the back of Yuki Tsunoda for 9th position. Strong little race this from Charles Leclerc.
He's on the medium tyre now compared to everyone else on the hard, because he ran that hard tyre at the end of lap 1. So he did a longer stint from pitting at the end of lap 1 with his front wing damage, and now he's on a charge on the mediums.
So much.
Okay, Lewis, it's all about getting to the end now, so 20 laps remaining.
There we go, Hamilton being told it's all about getting to the end.
He's still faster than Bottas behind. He's got a healthy 23.5 seconds back, so it shows the gulf in class between the top 2 and the next 2. Hamilton and Bottas separated by a full pit stop, which means that Lewis can come into the pits at the end of the race, put on a set of soft tyres and just pump in a fastest lap for a bonus point. Of course, Lando Norris held back the other 2 as well at the start.
Brake pedal again.
Okay, understood, Matt. So we think that's related to the curbs at turn 9-10.
So they think that Verstappen's electronic brake issue is related to the curbs at turns 9 and 10.
So is there a sensor that's spiking with the bouncing over the curbs? Is maybe just spiking a sensor into action that's going into a bit of a fail-safe on the brakes and giving them a slightly longer pedal, or it's just popping up a message on the dash. But Red Bull don't seem worried about the braking performance, but it's more the sensor maybe, as he's vibrating the car over the curbs, that's just shaking something to read a number that's causing issues there.
Like we never take any curb, man. What the f is that?
Let's just not take any undue risk here, Max.
I'll try to take care there, but it's random what happens.
So Verstappen saying,
understood.
Look, I take the curbs every single race we do.
But that's the thing with mechanical components, they can go wrong sometimes and not other times. Red Bull they got this race in the bag, 18 laps to go, they've got more pace, Hamilton's dropping back, but they need to make sure they just do everything now to just get to the end of the race. If they could wave the checkered flag now, they absolutely would. But Baku, things went wrong right at the end.
Okay, Max, so specifically the issue is braking turn 10 whilst on the curb. Just for information.
Okay, so Verstappen being told the very specifics of the situation there and what's going wrong.
So that's something you can easily avoid. You come through turn 9, it's a very quick right-hander. You use all the curve on the exit and then turn in. You brake and turn in from the curb. And well, he's still out on the curb that time around, Max Verstappen, to turn in towards turn 10. So didn't really seem to change anything there. You got to brake for turn 10. It's a slower corner. You approach it quite quickly. And Verstappen stayed on the curb. He doesn't need to. He's got the pace in hand. He's 1/10 quicker than Lewis Hamilton, but he's got nearly 8 seconds now to the Brit behind. But obviously it's not too much of a concern for him right now. Otherwise he'd have done something about it.
Lap 54 of 71. John Murray will bring you all the action from Netherlands versus Czech Republic at 5 o'clock this afternoon in the next match in the round of 16 in Euro 2020. And then Vicky Sparks and Chris Waddle will bring you Belgium versus Portugal from Seville later on this afternoon, or this evening I should say, 10 o'clock tonight in that particular squabble. Here's Lewis Hamilton's radio in the Styrian Grand Prix.
Front right, small blistering.
Okay, copy.
Lewis Hamilton saying he's got a bit of blistering on his front right. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc is on the attack on Yuki Tsunoda. Big lock-up on the right front from Leclerc as he tried to get around the outside of Yuki Tsunoda at turn 4. It's not ideal for the rest of his race, that Leclerc, but he's looking feisty and he's got a potential 8th place up for grabs here. So he didn't manage to get past Tsunoda, the young Japanese racer in the AlphaTauri team that time around. But if he can get past him, he's only 1.2 seconds behind Fernando Alonso, who's only 1.7 seconds behind Lance Stroll in 7th place.
Yeah, so it's, if he clears them all quickly, it's 7th that Leclerc can recover to, which would be miraculous after pitting at the end of the first lap with damage. He's aggressive now, isn't he? He's been aggressive since the first lap, too aggressive on the first lap, but being quite clinical. He's confident on the brakes, Leclerc. He's putting a lot of moves at turn 3 up the hill.
Perez pits. Sergio Perez comes into the pits from 5th position. He puts on a new set of medium tyres, sorry, from 4th position, puts on a new set of medium tyres. Now, is this what are they trying to do here with Valtteri Bottas in 3rd? Because this is too early to just be going for the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, it's not that. This is what you spoke about before. This is the tactic of the extra pit stop that we've seen a few times. And now Perez has potentially snookered Mercedes and Bottas. They can't pit or probably be undercut. That was a better pit stop from Perez this time around. 2.2 seconds from the Red Bull crew.
Let's go, mate. Let's go. Next one's right.
Pits on the next lap to cover him. He might be undercut. So Red Bull are just going to hope here that the Mercedes ahead runs out of tyres before the end of the race, and Perez can do what Verstappen did to Hamilton in France last time out, and what Perez did to Bottas.
Or maybe a little safety car or something will play into the hands as well of Sergio Perez.
Not anymore, because everyone else will have a cheap pit stop. You don't want to be pitting before the safety car. Yeah. Leclerc, nice move past Yuki Tsunoda, exit at turn 4, and he's already now charging after Fernando Alonso for 8th place. This is a serious recovery drive from Leclerc. That's a bit of a lock-up and a look into 3.
I thought he was going into Alonso then. Managed to keep out of the side of the Alpine. He's now got a run coming down into turn 4. Looks to the outside. And Leclerc tries to go all the way around the outside of Alonso. And he manages to get it done. They were really, really close to a bit of contact there. Again, but Leclerc makes the move and he's up into 8th place. He's really on a racy mission today. Here's Hamilton's radio.
Verstappen 8.8, gap 8.0.
I don't understand. 8.8 and 8.0, what's that?
The gap 8.0.
He did say 8.
What should I do? I can't close that gap.
Options are just battling it out on the tyre deck.
So Hamilton being told basically there are no options. Get to the end of the Grand Prix and hope he doesn't. That's a
the options message. Are no options.
Yeah,
it's just will Red Bull fall into trouble is basically Mercedes' only option to win the race. He's under no pressure from behind. Perez and Bottas are in their own fight, which is now no longer on track at the moment. It's Perez charging, but from 19 seconds away from Bottas, who didn't respond with the pit stop of their own Mercedes. So it's just whether Bottas's tyres fall off a cliff now and Perez can catch. He was 1.5 seconds quicker on the last lap, Sergio Perez, so he's got some pace there. 14 laps to go. He's going to get close if he can keep that sort of pace up, and we might see a bit of we've got a tyre difference between the two. He's got a better chance to make it through on the track. I think there was contact between Leclerc and Alonso when they came through. I think Alonso's just tagged the right rear of Leclerc, who was braving it around the outside.
It looked like wheel to wheel to me rather than front wing.
Yeah, I mean, Leclerc, he's on a recovery drive. He's like a cat with 9 lives today, though, isn't he? Contact with Gasly that ruled Gasly out of the race. Latifi into nothingness as well, still at the back behind the Haas cars. And Leclerc also looked like he was out of the race at that point, effectively, with a pit stop that put him plumb last. But he's now charging back through. Has survived a bit of contact with Kimi Raikkonen, passing the Alfa Romeo driver for 13th, 10 or 15 or so laps ago. Now he's survived another bit of contact with Fernando Alonso. He's up into 8th, chasing down Stroll for 7th.
Worth just noting that Valtteri Bottas had some quite bad blistering on his rear right tyre, so he'll be nursing those, and I just wonder what they can do, what Mercedes can do to try and bring something back to Red Bull at this point in time. And Perez has gone fastest with her fastest lap, so...
And Lewis had track limits again at turn 10, so just be careful with the track limits, Lewis. We're looking at a penalty otherwise.
Yeah, if you go all 4 wheels off the track and gain an advantage on too many occasions, then you will get a penalty. I think Charles Leclerc has been off quite a few times as well, so he's got to be careful too, the Ferrari driver. As Jenny pointed out, fastest lap of the Grand Prix from Sergio Perez, pretty much 3 seconds quicker than Valtteri Bottas. So are we in that stage last that we were in France, where it's kind of, well, you've got to kind of save the tyres so you have something to fight with if he catches you?
Bottas, I assume, had traffic, back markers on the last lap. That was too slow. This time around he's picked up the pace, but he's still 2 seconds away from Perez. So even if he's a bit quicker, and 1 lap was an anomaly, it wasn't an anomaly by a huge amount. 1.6 seconds Perez caught Bottas, and he's only 14 seconds back from Bottas. I think that might be a great call from Red Bull.
So Bottas' lap at 10.5. He's struggling with his back markers.
You think we will get him?
We're going to be on him at the end of the race.
So Perez saying, do you think we'll get him? Team saying, yeah, not fully confident, but yeah.
We'll be on him. We'll be there, and then it's up to you in the car. Yeah, the way he's going, though, he's going to catch Bottas. Bottas is dropping off, struggling with back markers, but also struggling for a little bit of pace. And the way that Leclerc's going on these medium tyres, he's flying in the Ferrari, and I think Red Bull probably saw that as well and thought there's a big tyre delta difference that you can have from pitting onto fresh tyres, and Perez has got to try and make use of it, like Leclerc is, as he's all over the back of Lance Stroll for 7th.
So this could be the move from the Monegasque racer. He's tucked right into the slipstream of Lance Stroll. He's got the drag reduction system open in the rear wing, charging up the hill towards turn 3, sends it to the inside, and once again Charles Leclerc makes the overtake and is now up into 7th place, having been last at the end of the first lap after contact with Pierre Gasly. And Leclerc's now up into 7th, and that's about as much as he can do. I think he's 15 seconds behind his teammate Carlos Sainz, which in itself is not too bad, because he would have lost more than that, making the pit stop on the opening lap and having the collision. So decent stuff there. Valtteri Bottas now is 13 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. That last lap, the gap came down only 1.2 seconds, so it's starting to slow the rate of attack from Perez.
Bottas has put a lap on Antonio Giovinazzi and Esteban Ocon as well, who's behind Giovinazzi. But he's got a load more back markers still coming up. Daniel Ricciardo, Kimi Raikkonen, Sebastian Vettel, and pretty much everyone up to Charles Leclerc are running relatively line astern. And Bottas may have to clear the lot of them, which is going to cost him lap time. Of course, Perez at some point is going to have to come through the same traffic, but who's going to be more decisive through the traffic? It can make a big difference. Perez, though, has got to run. There's a few cars between he and Bottas in the first place. They come through this lap around, and 1 second is the gap.
It's better than the weather.
Copy, understood.
Hamilton saying it's Verstappen, sorry, saying it's getting a bit cloudy at turn 3, the weather, but the team's saying, yeah, fine. There's been a wicket at the at Bristol, Amy Lofthouse. Full ball-by-ball commentary of England women versus India women in their first ODI on Sports Extra today. We're on lap 62 of 71, so 10 to run in the Styrian Grand Prix. So what, about 15 or 20 minutes to go in this race?
Rain coming.
And nothing on the radar.
Hamilton also looking at the skies, because he's kind of got nothing else to look at the moment. 11 seconds back from Max Verstappen, 28 seconds clear of Valtteri Bottas.
Really dark.
It is pretty
really big black cloud above turn 3 at the moment, coming over the track. There was an outside chance of rain, and both Verstappen and Hamilton are kind of having boring races at the moment. Verstappen leading by 11.5 seconds, under no pressure, no longer seems worried about his brake-by-wire issue, and Hamilton is having a race very much on his own, no worries about Bottas or Perez behind. So they're looking to the clouds, and when you're driving as well, you drive normally with a dark tinted visor as well to block out a little bit of, sometimes the sun gets very bright in your eyes. So
using overtake
the drivers all have a dark tint, and suddenly when it gets really dark overhead, it seems even darker for the drivers at the wheel, but the teams don't seem unduly concerned.
Were you always desperate for rain?
Depends where I was.
So were you always desperate for rain?
Usually not.
Lap 63 of 71, that was unfair. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, I've just been running through the points as it stands, and it would mean that Red Bull would extend their lead in the Constructors' Championship to 42 points ahead of Mercedes. And if it finishes like this, then Verstappen's lead over Hamilton would be 19 points. Perez currently running with the fastest lap, so he gets the team that extra 1 point.
Hamilton's got that fastest lap if he wants it by the end of the race, though, because he's got a free pit stop and will go quicker than Perez when he burns off a bit of fuel and can stick on a set of soft tyres to go and nab that one before the end.
It'll be a big lead, though, for Red Bull, won't it? If they're on, let's say they're on 251 points and Mercedes are on 212. It's a big lead in the Constructors' Championship that Mercedes have won every year since 2014.
Yeah. Bottas hasn't been providing the points so far that he has done in the past. It's his worst start to a season for the team. At the same time as Red Bull have got a second driver who's able to score big points and has had a win this year already in Baku. So the two of them combined has meant that Red Bull are looking much more threatening. Of course, Verstappen ahead of Hamilton in the driver standings, but it's the second drivers that have made almost a bigger impact at this stage, and we've got the race still between those two for the podium. Perez 9.5 seconds back from Bottas now, 8 laps to go. It's going to be tight. Perez is going to get there. 8/10 quicker than Bottas though on the last lap. Maybe not enough. He might just get there on the final lap.
Simon, using hashtag BBCF1, says the hype about Hamilton and Verstappen,
good job, Valtteri.
The battle, is fading with each race. Verstappen wins easily this year.
Well, how many of those been?
I'm just saying what Simon said.
How many races has Verstappen won easily this year?
This one?
Well, he hasn't won it yet, Jack.
Don't tell me, tell Simon.
Why, Simon? How many races has Verstappen won easily? He's only won 3. Imola he won, but Hamilton went off, and Verstappen would have been under big pressure. Hamilton was faster in the wet when he had damage. He was then took fastest up charging through the field, so it was Hamilton's mistake that made it easy in Imola. Okay, Monaco was easy, but it shouldn't have been because Leclerc qualified on pole and could have won the race. France was the only other win. He won in the penultimate lap.
Okay, you can try to unlap yourself.
I can't. It would be very risky for both guys. No one on the inside.
So Carlos Sainz has been told you can unlap yourself or try and unlap yourself, and he has just done that. So Sainz has just overtaken Lewis Hamilton to get back onto the lead lap. He stays in 6th position. He's only 7.5 seconds back from Lando Norris here. Actually, they lapped the same lap on the last lap, the same time, so I don't think he's going to close in that much, but decent job from Carlos Sainz. Leclerc in 7th. Hamilton now 14 seconds back from Max Verstappen, so this is just get it to the end of the Grand Prix and see what happens now for Hamilton. Lap 66 of 71.
Nearly 30 seconds clear of Bottas, though, on the same strategy. He's miles ahead of his teammate, but still not enough to battle Verstappen, as Simon would have liked today, and we all would have liked, to be honest, today. It has been a season of battles, though. There's been no easy win, really, for either of them. Arguably, Hamilton's win in Portugal was the easiest. If you take away the mistake in Imola and Monaco, which we all know is very difficult to overtake, and even then, Sainz was keeping some pressure on Verstappen at the front, and it was an off day for Mercedes and Hamilton. But this one is one that it is looking like a slam dunk for Red Bull. Pole and led every lap. 14 seconds, there's nothing that Hamilton can do about it today.
Bottas obviously got held up in the early stages, didn't he, behind Lando Norris, but not to the tune of the 30 seconds that he's back from Lewis Hamilton now. Sergio Perez, I don't think he's run out of pace. He's 7.6 seconds behind Valtteri Bottas and was only half a second quicker on that last lap with 5 laps to go. So I think the Perez attack has run out maybe a little bit.
Yeah, Bottas has got enough in hand, I think, at the moment. Perez obviously taking a bit of pain going through those back markers as well. But Bottas initially lost a lot of time going through. Now it looks like he's going to run out of laps before he gets to the back of Bottas. So this time it doesn't look like the strategy is going to work for Red Bull with the extra pit stop.
Jenny Gow.
Yeah, we saw George Russell having to retire as a power unit issue, and he's been speaking to the media. He said it's such a shame, racing is never easy, it's never fair, but he says that's not the right word, you make your own luck, and ultimately something went wrong today. But for us, we were not here consistently, and it's just typical. I don't really know what to say, to be honest. It's such a shame for everybody in the team. They've worked so hard for this, and it's been such a long time coming. Little
did he know it was Jolyon Palmer's fault for commentator cursing him on lap 7 of the Grand Prix.
Is a commentator curse only a thing because when things happen, people talk about it? There must be so many commentators' curses that never come to fruition.
Yeah, we haven't commentator cursed Verstappen, have we?
I did in Baku.
Did you?
I remember before he went off into the wall, I said this is looking like Verstappen's in the bag.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's off in the wall.
I also think for a real commentator's curse, a real vintage commentator's curse, it has to happen like at the exact time you're saying it. Like the classic Murray Walker one when he was commentating on Rallycross in the, late 80s. And he says, here's Hamilton's radio.
Life difficult for Raikkonen and Vettel. Under pressure. Negative, not at the moment, but maybe towards the end of the race.
Hamilton asking if Valtteri is under pressure, but there was the Murray Walker one where he said the big advantage of being in front is you can see through a completely clear windscreen, and as he said that, the driver just went straight on and crashed into a grass bank. That's when a real commentator's curse happens, for my money, when something is, you're saying it and then the opposite exactly happens, not you said something and then 20 minutes later someone has a pneumatic air issue. So I'm letting you off that one. 3 laps to go. Kimi Raikkonen is about to overtake Sebastian Vettel, goes to the outside now on the run down towards turn 4 and gets through. Nice little drive this from Raikkonen. He's up into 11th place, not enough to score points for the Alfa Romeo team, but he's having a solid run, comfortably clear of his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi, and conversely Sebastian Vettel is having a bit of a weaker day than Lance Stroll, who's up in 8th place in the other Aston Martin.
Yeah, Stroll's going to take some points home at the moment, but Vettel was in the points in 10th. He's just been overtaken by both his former Ferrari teammates. First it was Leclerc, then it was Kimi Raikkonen, who put in a nice move around the outside. Alfa Romeo team liked that one, but it's 11th for Kimi at the moment. His best result this year is 10th, bringing home 1 point for Alfa Romeo. He's got 4 seconds to go and catch Yuki Tsunoda for that today.
And Lando, a few drops possible, nothing significant.
A few drops of rain possible, Lando Norris is being told. Nothing significant. We're on lap 69 of 71.
With the weather forecast we've had this year, it's probably going to be a deluge, isn't it? the commentator's curse of weather. Nothing significant, downpour.
Okay, Liz, so box. Going for fastest lap.
So Hamilton will come into the pits from 2nd place and then go to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. In he comes now. Always a bit of a risk pitting right at the end of the race in case something goes wrong or some such, but it looks as though it should be all right for Lewis Hamilton. That will be accommodated if this is a slow stop now, but it's all neat and tidy for the Mercedes team. 2.7 seconds, not absolutely rapid, but solid enough, and Hamilton will go and set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix.
Imagine having that Bottas Monaco pit stop right at the end for just the 1 lap, 1 point of fastest lap. Hamilton this time with the wheel nut not failing, going back on. He managed to change the 4 tyres and he's back out on track. 1 lap after this one, which he'll have to pump in the fastest lap for to get the bonus point. He's come out in a load of traffic. They're back markers. Sebastian Vettel that he overtakes in towards turn 3. He's then got another car to clear, and then he's got a nice clear track to go and get that fastest lap point.
The voice troll says, do us a favour and start putting additional curses on this race. For example, this is a dull race, nothing's happening, not a cloud in the sky, and try and commentators curse our way out of it that way. Final lap now for Max Verstappen, the Red Bull driver about to take extend his lead in the Drivers' World Championship. And Red Bull looking good to extend their lead as well in the Constructors' Championship. And then we do it all again in 1 week's time in Austria. Well, less than that, Friday, free practice, which you can hear on the BBC Sport website. And then qualifying on Saturday, race again on Sunday. Hamilton through the final corner now, comes across the line and starts his final lap of the race, which he will hope will be the fastest lap of the race to get him a bonus point.
Perez is close to Bottas, by the way, just over a second back for third.
He's caught him rapidly. It was 2.3 seconds on the last lap, so Sergio Perez absolutely has flown up to the back of Valtteri Bottas in the fight for third place. I don't think it's going to be enough. Here comes Max Verstappen, meanwhile, the Red Bull driver, through the final few corners, and it's going to be another victory. Verstappen across the line. It's his 4th win of the season, wins the Styrian Grand Prix, and extends his championship lead over Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes really have a fight on their hands this year. Hamilton dropping further back in the Drivers' Championship. Perez is within DRS range now of Valtteri Bottas as they come down towards turn 4. He's caught him. It didn't look like he was going to, but he's caught him just maybe a lap too late, and Bottas should be able to hold on to this third place. Hamilton now is going to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, coming through the final 2 corners, through the right-hander of 9, down the hill, into the right-hander of 10, sets the fastest lap of the race, scores an extra point there, but finishes second to Max Verstappen as the checkered flag falls, and Valtteri Bottas comes through the final corner, finishes in third place. A solid enough drive today from Valtteri Bottas. That's what Mercedes want from him, really, although he only finishes half a second ahead of Sergio Perez. One more lap, I think Perez would have had him, but it's Verstappen who wins the Styrian Grand Prix, and the smattering of fans that are here in the grandstands, all on their feet. The Orange Mafia normally invade this place and celebrate a Verstappen win.
Oh, mate, that was just perfect. Nothing more to say than that. Really perfect. Fantastic.
Yeah, unbelievable.
What a drive.
The car was on fire.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So
the car was on fire today. Nice to drive. Unbelievable. Thank you very much.
That was absolutely clinical, Max. That's a great drive. Keep turning that screw. Well done.
Another win at home.
Giampiero Verstappen.
Another win at home. Feels really good.
Giampiero, Verstappen's race engineer, speaking first of all, then Christian Horner, the race engineer for, the team principal of the Red Bull team. Another win at home, says Verstappen. We're not in the Netherlands, but this is the Red Bull Ring in Austria, which is the home race for the Red Bull team. The Netherlands, of course, in action at 5 o'clock as well today versus the Republic in the round of 16 in Euro 2020, and then Belgium versus Portugal later on today at 8 o'clock tonight. And this is Lewis Hamilton's radio.
Well done, mate. Good job today.
Good job today.
They've got fastest lap.
They gave it everything, guys. Let's keep pushing. Not the result we wanted, but still got good points.
What more is there to say about Hamilton's drive? I think him and Peter Bonington have just summed it up, really.
Damage limitation in the best way. Red Bull were faster today. There's nothing that Hamilton and Mercedes could do to challenge Verstappen. Once Max got it off the line in the lead still, they were never under pressure. The Mercedes didn't have the pace to challenge in the pit stop phase. So it's all about coming home second and taking the fastest lap, which means on a day where Red Bull have absolutely shown the way to Mercedes, Mercedes have still only lost 6 points in the Drivers' Championship, and with Bottas holding on ahead of Perez, they've only lost 3 points actually in the Constructors. So as bad days go, it's not disastrous.
It's Hamilton now who needs to rally his troops, doesn't he? We've not really seen this too much. We know what he can do for his team. We've seen him before when he's been out in the lead rallying the troops, but this is very different. This is Red Bull out in front. This is Mercedes on the back foot, and this is him who's going to have to go back now, I feel, and be that 7 times world champion.
Max Verstappen climbs out of the cockpit, stands on the front of the car and pumps both fists, and then he goes running into the pit lane to embrace the team that have all climbed up the metal pit wall to celebrate with Verstappen. Runs into the pack and embraces them all, high fives and fist bumps all around. An absolute delight for Verstappen. A really straightforward, really Grand Prix victory for him once he got and he never was under pressure from Hamilton, even off the line into turn 1, not even up into turn 3 was he under pressure from Hamilton, and from there on it was fairly straightforward. Hamilton hauls himself out of his car in a much more lackadaisical way, replaces the headrest, does a little wave to the crowd. And Bottas in third place did what Mercedes kind of need him to be doing today as well.
Yeah, good drive from Bottas. Did what he had to. Was nowhere near the level of Hamilton, but we don't really come to expect that from Bottas. He was there as the wingman today. Took points off Perez. Got himself on the podium again. Better result from fifth on the grid.
Lando Norris finishes fifth for the McLaren team. He was kind of in a race of his own, really, once Perez and Bottas got past him. Sixth and seventh for the two Ferraris of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. Good recovery drive from Charles Leclerc. He's been voted driver of the day, but let's not forget the reason he did a good race is because he drove into Pierre Gasly on the straight and forced the AlphaTauri out of the Grand Prix and had to pit on the opening lap. So ups and downs, I would suggest, for Charles Leclerc today. Lance Stroll 8th for Aston Martin, 9th for Fernando Alonso in the Alpine, and Yuki Tsunoda picks up a point in 10th position for the AlphaTauri squad. Raikkonen, Vettel, Ricciardo, Ocon and Giovinazzi, the top 15. Schumacher, Latifi, Mazepin, the 18 finishers. Russell out of the race after running strongly in the points, and Pierre Gasly out after the aforementioned contact with Charles Leclerc on the opening lap of the race. So Max Verstappen extends his championship lead now, and there's another race here in 1 week's time, and then 2 weeks after that it'll be the British Grand Prix, full capacity, the British fans roaring him on, and that is going to be maybe one of the most intense British Grand Prix that Hamilton has had in a long time. He's had tough fights there before, but not many have been quite as crucial for the World Championship. Let's hear from our top three, starting with Max Verstappen, Hamilton and Bottas, and they will be speaking to the former F1 driver Mark Webber.
Max Verstappen, mate, 14th Grand Prix victory. Was there any Grand Prix that was easier than that, mate? I tell you what, that looked pretty straightforward from where I was sitting.
I mean, you never know, of course, how it's going to end up, but straight away I felt a good balance in the car, and yeah, it was good to manage the tires basically from the start. So felt like also to the end I always had tires left, and of course they pitted a bit well, one lap earlier than us. We reacted to that, and then we just kept on going, trying to hit our lap times, and yeah, that worked really well today.
And you must be looking forward to it. We've got two races here in a fortnight, well, back-to-back, obviously, for 7 days' time. You're going to go again at this venue, so you must be seeking some great comfort with that, with this championship battle really coming in your favour now.
Yeah, I mean, that's very positive, but of course we have to show it again next week, so we'll definitely have a look what we can do better, and yeah, then I'm looking forward to next week.
Yeah, and in terms of, I mean, Sergio did his best to get through, but in terms of the constructors' reliability, I mean, all the momentum is now starting to come with Red Bull's way.
Yeah, it's looking really good, so we just have to keep on going, keep pushing really hard, and then I'm confident yeah, that we can do a very good job again.
Thank you very much, Max.
Lewis Hamilton finishing in second place.
Well, Lewis, I must say, in the previous Grand Prix, I've really never seen you drive as well. It was an